To study the intercostal muscles, we'll use this part of the anterior thoracic wall taken from one of our cadavers. This contains the sternum and the ribs. So this view to get oriented to it. The intercostal muscles are three in number: the external intercostal, the internal intercostal, and the innermost intercostal. The external intercostal muscle starts posteriorly from the costo-transverse junction and runs forward in the intercostal space until the junction between the ribs and the costal cartilages. From here, the muscle is replaced by an aponeurosis, which is called the anterior or the external intercostal membrane. This anterior intercostal membrane runs from the costochondral junction to the sternum. In contrast, the internal intercostal muscle starts from the sternal border and runs backward in the intercostal space until the angle of the rib, where it becomes replaced by the posterior or internal intercostal membrane that runs from this point to the end of the intercostal space. The external intercostal muscle is the most superficial part of the muscles of the thoracic wall. This muscle runs from the lower border of the rib above to the upper border of the rib below, with the muscle fibers going in a downward and forward direction. As we said earlier, when this muscle reaches the costochondral junction, it is replaced by this aponeurosis, which is the external or also called the anterior intercostal membrane. Deep to the external intercostal is the internal intercostal muscle. This muscle runs from the lower border of the rib above to the upper border of the rib below, with its fibers going in a downward and backward direction. This muscle at the back of the intercostal space is replaced by a similar membrane to this, which is called the internal or the posterior intercostal membrane. The third muscle is the innermost intercostal, and this muscle differs from the first two in that it's an incomplete layer of muscle and is divided into three parts: one anteriorly, one posteriorly, and the third one in the middle of the space. The second difference is that the innermost intercostal muscle can cross more than one intercostal space. An example of it is this muscle, which is the anterior part of it, and it's called transversus thoracis or sternocostalis, because it originates from the sternum and fades to the ribs. And as obvious here, it can cross more than one intercostal space.